Hey, juniors, welcome back to Unit 10. This is 10.2, the Battle for Britain. I promise, this one is going to be much shorter. The Battle for Britain is super interesting, in my opinion. It's probably one of the more interesting areas of World War II, often looked over, but we're going to kind of gloss over it here today. So like I said in the last video, Germany, Hitler never really wanted to go to war with Britain. He constantly looked and sought out to have peace negotiations with Winston Churchill and Britain. That essentially Hitler would keep his conquered territory. He would leave Britain alone. Britain could keep its overseas empire. He's got his European empire. But Winston Churchill wanted none of that. And Winston Churchill kind of brought Hitler to the brink, and Hitler was kind of forced to go and plan an invasion of Britain. Now, here's where things would have to change for the Germans. Britain is obviously an island, so blitzkrieg can't work here. So they would have to invade amphibiously. All right, that is a big word that I want you guys to walk away with here. All right, it's going to be really, really big in the future. Hint, hint. All right. Invasion. All right, an amphibian is from sea, can live in the sea, and also go on land. All right, so anytime we talk about an amphibious invasion, we're talking about one where troops start on the water, are docked on a beach, and invade. All right, so that was the ultimate plan for Britain. All right, but the thing about Britain is that their air force is so good that he couldn't just have an amphibious invasion because his troops would get massacred by the Royal Air Force. So he had to weaken the Royal Air Force first, which is really where the Battle of Britain takes place. The Battle of Britain is all about the air, and it's a battle almost fought solely above land. All right, there is some water stuff, but it's mostly in the new theater of war, which is the air. And we've got the Luftwaffe against the RAF, and who will prevail? So these are just some planes here. I'm not even going to go over them. You can look them up on your own if you're into that technology thing and might write practices question, how technology changed the impact, or how technology changed the war, impacted the war. Here are some of the names of the planes. This is a German plane right here. Now, this is another German plane. All right, this is a fighter. This is a dive bomber. This is a fighter. All right, and then we've got some British planes as well. We've got the Spitfire and the Hurricane. You guys can look those up on your own if you're really interested. All right, so essentially the Battle for Britain took part in 4 different phases. All right, I'm going to break them down. If you notice, I'm going to skip slides that say in-depth. Those are kind of really in-depth slides about the different phases. If you're interested in the technology or the practices questions, read those. If you're not, skip them. I'm going to. Germany started the invasion of Britain in phases 1 and 2, where it was going to go in and it was going to bomb industrial centers and port cities because it wanted to take out the supply chains of Britain. All right. So that's really what this is all about. All right. Germany, this is another reason why Norway was super important. It used Norway as runways to get to places in kind of northern England. But anyway. Germany would send its hold on a second. Okay, so Germany would send its bombers towards England and take out the port cities. All right, now there's something that you need to kind of follow about war, right? A bomber is a big plane. They're big, they're hard to maneuver, they're meant to carry a large payload. All right, so if you're just flying in a bomber plane, you're a sitting target. You're going to get shot down very, 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 very easily. All right. So what they do, I'm very bad at this camera thing. All right. What they do is fighter planes are small. They're agile, right? So you have a bomber that flies high, and then you've got fighter planes that fly underneath it and escort it. All right. So in phases 1, 2, the Germans are going to be really successful because they're close to the borders, right? Port cities. It's an island nation. It surrounds the outside, right? So all of these port cities in England, all right, here's England, they're all going to kind of surround the outside, all right? So you don't have very long distances to fly. You kind of go in, you escort your bombers, you attack your target, and then you turn around and you fly back to wherever you came from, all right? So in the first few phases, Germany's super successful. All right, their fighter planes are really good at escorting those bombers. Those bombers are really good at delivering their payload on the target, and everyone turns around and goes home. All right, bombers have really big gas tanks. They're really big planes. Fighters have really small gas tanks. That's why they're lightweight. They're not supposed to be in the air for a long time. Keep that in the back of your head for a second. The British are going to develop a new technology called radar systems. All right, they called it Chain Home, where all of these different stations were created all over Britain that had a radar kind of outlook, so that they knew when the Germans were coming. So when the Germans were coming, the British put their planes up in the air and they fought them. All right. In the first two phases, both sides had heavy losses. All right. The Germans were taking out port cities. They were taking out industrial centers. And then in phase two, they even start to take out airships, all right, and where the RAF is taking off from. And that's really going to hurt the Royal Air Force, right? Hello? Here we go. Can we erase? All right. Famous quote, never was so much owed by so many to so few. This is about the Royal Air Force. Britain owes its freedom to the Royal Air Force. If it wasn't for the fighting that those pilots did against Germans, Britain would have been invaded by the Germans, and the world might be a very, very different place today. But the Royal Air Force hold off that German. All right. So this is the beginning of phases 1 and 2. They're bringing in across the English Channel from port cities, right? They're bombing port cities. They're not bombing mainland England yet. All right. So phase 3 and 4. So essentially, what's happened is the British go on a bombing raid of Germany, and they bomb a city. They miss their industrial target, and they actually kill civilians. And this is going to trigger Hitler to switch to phases 3 and 4, and it's called terror bombing. Hitler says, if you want to bomb civilians, I'll bomb civilians. So he switches to what is known as the Blitz, right? He's going to go in and he is major English cities, London being one of them, right? So this is where the battle for Britain gets super interesting. Hitler says, I want to break the morale of the British people, right? I want to break the British will, because if I break the British will, I will break the Air Force and I'll be invaded. So the German bombing, their bombers up in the air, but now it's going to change, right? Because now I'm going to make that picture, right? Here's England, right? I'm not attacking the port cities anymore. I'm attacking cities on the inside. So those bombers, right? They're flying super high. Fighters can't fly the entire distance sometimes. All right, they've got small gas tanks. They can't stay in the air the entire time. Bombers are going to have to go on unescorted when they're bombing cities. All right, and the British are going to be able to shoot down a lot of these German bombers. Because again, if you're a fighter plane and you're attacking the bomber doesn't have maneuverability to avoid your bullets. It's going to get shot down. And that's exactly what happens to a lot of these German planes that are going in these terror bombing raids. They're being shot down. So the switch to these raids is a really big mistake for Adolf Hitler. All right, let me go to the next slide here. All right, the British morale never breaks. The British morale never breaks. As a matter of fact, it said after the war that Winston Churchill said that Britain could have lasted approximately 2 to 3 more weeks if he had continued bombing the Royal Air Force airships. All right? But him switching targets to the cities, allow the Royal Air Force to recuperate and repair their airstrips and repair their planes and get new planes in the sky to defend England. And now it's easier fighting because we're just fighting bombers. We're not fighting fighters anymore. So essentially the battle for Britain is won because Adolf Hitler switches to this terrible tactic that never works. The British morale is never broken, and this is how Britain really develops the idea of a total war during World War II. I'll get to that in a second. So I'm going to take these in depth. Pictures of the, he definitely has British will. Why? This I just kind of went over. This is saying the same thing that I just said. All right. The whole population committed to total victory. All right. The British people bought into what was, right. They accepted the idea of food rations. They accepted the ideas of cities are going to be right. There's a bomb at night sometimes. That's another thing in the bombing rates. Hitler switched to night bombing because he thought that would take them by surprise, not knowing that their radar could see at night. So the English would planes up in the air to counteract those bombers flying, and they're able to fight them very, very, very easily. All right. I'll show you some pictures here to explain what I'm talking about. All right. Where that saying comes from. A lot of you the saying and other things. Keep calm and carry comes from the Battle of Britain. All right. And this is what they told the British people. Right. If you're all night, you wake up the next day and go to work like nothing ever happened. Right. Another picture. All right. So older men that weren't pilots, they would stay on watch, all right, and they would sound air sirens and alert cities. This was chain home. This is all a part of chain home. We knew when the Germans were coming, and we took preemptive measures when we knew that those bombings were going to happen. All right. They slept in the subways. All right. Their homes were dangerous, so they slept in the subways. All right. It's hard to bomb the around, right? So if you wake up, you'd go about your day as normally possible. Another thing is it became law in England could not have, all right, because it would give the Germans an easy target if they see the lights of the cities, right? So everyone made sure to close the street at night, and if you didn't, arrested for treason, right? They sent to the countryside because the adults knew that they could keep their will. What would break their will is if they have to bury their children. So turn away. Hitler bombing the countryside, there's nothing to bomb there. He only bombed the cities. So if adults die, it's okay. We can't let our kids die, and we can't break our will that way. So they moved their kids out of the cities. They did not want their kids to be collateral damage to get them out of there. All right. School in the countryside, adult cities, they stayed working. Women were in the workforce. Men were in the workforce. Men joined the Air Force. Total war. All right, and that's going to be your kind of your assignment for this week. Other than taking notes, it's going to be researching one of the following groups and talk about how they were impacted by the war and how they contributed to the idea of a total war in the Battle for Britain. Either women, children, minorities, or average citizens. I'll break down that assignment a little bit more in my weekly breakdown. Questions, and